Hello and welcome back to our IG Live series. Today is one that I am super excited about. It's definitely an area that I feel super passionate about. We are going to be talking through why you guys need to incorporate strength training when you're training for one of our races. We're going to be joined by the fantastic Harvey, who has just requested to join now, so I'm going to accept that. Hey Ian! Harvey is just coming on now.
Hello.
Hello! How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. I'm so jealous of where you are right now. It looks so
Wow.
For those of you guys that don't know, Harvey is in Greece and literally looks like he is living the dream.
He's having a good time.
Yeah. And has been creating some great content for us whilst he's been out there, so it's definitely been not all play. There's been lots of work going on behind the scenes.
Indeed.
So Harvey, as you know, this is going to be kind of a 30-minute chat with you, just to talk all through why our runners should be incorporating more strength into their program, something I feel super passionate about, and I know that you do as well. So we'll hand over to you, but first of all, could you please tell us a bit about you and what you do?
Yes, my name is Harvey Lawton. I'm a strength coach based in London and founder of the Movement Blueprint, which is an online training system devised to deliver kind of education and training for kind of anyone in their fitness journey. The corrective exercise ethos of the brand and my background lends itself to a wider audience within the endurance sport world. So runners, triathletes, ultra athletes, all these kind of sporting disciplines which require, you know, hammer and tong for the body, kind of come and see us or see me, as it were, to kind of get the best route to their events or to their training. So almost like a built and not broken ethos behind the brand.
Sure. You're a little bit blurry, by the way. We can still hear you, so it's great.
I'm a little bit blurry.
A little bit blurry, yeah. Oh, let's pause a second. Just so that people
Should be on.
see that you look.
Oh.
It's just reconnecting.
No, is that any better?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, much better.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect.
Super.
Great.
So yeah, after you. So previously to that, my background has been within rugby and sport, and that's kind of where I built my corrective exercise ethos through personal experience with injuries and also that performance sport ethos that I've had throughout my life.
Amazing, and we're super excited to work with you going forward and to help lots of our runners kind of get the most out of their ultra experiences, because unfortunately it's not just all about the miles they put in, and you do a lot of work on top of that.
It's not indeed.
And what about your running experience? Have you done
So my running experience has been kind of the other end of the spectrum to ultra marathons and marathons. It's been very kind of along the lines of sprinting and kind of performance-based sports running. So be it 200 meters, 400 meters, 815, up to 10K, which kind of therein lies with my training goals personally for that middle kind of like distance and bit of an engine as well. But as I said, like the experience that I've got working with runners and working with kind of endurance athletes has really been built over the last kind of 5 to 10 years of that corrective exercise ethos.
For sure, and we have to ask, what are your goals at the moment? Anything specific?
My goals at the moment, yes, kind of pursuing the hybrid athlete, as it were. So a little bit of hard work on the bike, plenty of kind of middle distance runs, no swimming just yet. I'm not on board with that. And the functional fitness scene in the UK is fantastic. So really looking to dive deeper into that in terms of competing as part of a team and as an individual as well. So always trying to hammer on.
Cool. I mean, you say that, it won't be long before we break into a race, I'm sure of it. Okay, so let's move on to why we've got you on, rather than me rambling on. Why do you think strength work is essential for these runners that are taking on the bigger distances? Our races obviously start, we've got a 50-kilometre option actually in our new race, but generally speaking, our races tend to be 125 kilometres over 2 days or 250 kilometres over 5 days, which are big distances. So why do you think strength training is so essential for those taking on those types of events?
Yeah, so I mean, as you say, those distances are huge. The demands on the body also are really, really great, especially on those kind of longer exponential days. You know, you might do longer on a day one and then day two might be a little bit. However, it's varied. The body takes a pounding in terms of its impact, in terms of its tissues. As we go up in distance, we kind of are subject to more fatigue. Fatigue causes breakdown, all that sort of thing. So often with increased running volume or miles or whatever it may be, there's more stress on the body, there's more demand for the body's tissues, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons and the joints to really kind of, you know, deal with all that load. And we expect our bodies to just do it repeatedly, which, I mean, we're all guilty of. And yeah, so it's really, really strength therein lies the foundation to give us a platform to run on, to give us stable joints, to give us strong tissues, strong ligaments, strong muscles, and all the kind of connective tissues in between. You know, we want to be running on kind of shock absorbers, you know, with like nice elastic, mobile musculature through the foot and the ankle, all the way up to strength at the hip. So we build efficiency as we kind of run. And if that's the missing link, then we are driving on square tires. If you see it like that, you know, if we don't miss the component that helps us run and what we expect our body to be able to cope with, then we're never going to either hit performance goals or distance goals.
Sure. And I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past, but it's that kind of bulletproofing the body so that people can go on bigger distances and like you say, take the impact and take the continuous pounding that we all are very guilty of assuming our body is that much kind of let's say bubble wrap.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the strength work, and I know that you're a huge advocate of this. There is a lot of kind of underlying elements of strength work that are often missed, like mobility, like just general movement patterns that people need to sort of practice to ensure they can run strong. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the required movements for running. So it's essentially, if you break down running, you are breaking down a single leg hop. So we are repeatedly bounding through the foot, striking on the heel, through the forefoot, and then off to toe off. But that impact there creates a lot of demand for the body. So for that to be effective and efficient, the foot and the ankle have to be mobile. So the flexibility and mobility drills at the ankle are absolutely key. The muscles around the ankle, knee, hip, lower back, core have to be kind of strong and stable to deal with both the impact and the force production. So really focusing in on what the joint is capable of doing, as well as the bigger picture, i.e. the movement pattern, is really interesting and really, really important.
Sure, and you are actually taking the guys through a live on Sunday mornings. If you guys are around, 8:30, taking over our Instagram to take you guys through some movement patterns, and I will definitely be joining in, so definitely recommend.
Good.
Yeah, I've got a big weekend testing some of the route for our Ultra X England event, so I felt like it's
fun. Yeah, you've been busy.
And often with runners, and I can definitely talk from my own experience, is strength work is the first to go. You know, if we're tired, we're like, oh, okay, I'll just do an easy run. Or if like your week's looking really busy, people tend to prioritize the miles, which we know is not ideal. Why do you think this is? Why do you think people tend to prioritize the miles over perhaps the part that's actually going to be able to keep them doing the miles?
I've actually had a lot of these conversations with my online clients and in-person clients. Let's not escape that running is the forefront of our goal. So we are training to run. We are the mileage we do it because we love running. Running is the epitome of the target. But before that, often things get neglected, i.e. mobility training, strength training, and all these things kind of add up as to, you know, making like miles be the priority. And as you say, increased miles, increased fatigue, increase all that sort of stuff doesn't lend itself to positive progressive performance.
Sure. And when you're talking about the positive progressive performance, just shying a little bit away from some of the questions, but I think it's a good point to touch on. We talk a lot about how quickly we increase miles. So there's kind of some crazy myth around the 10% rule, and people think they continuously increase the miles they do by the 10% rule. I've had lots of interesting conversations, and I'm sure you've had much more intellectual ones than me, but around actually how runners manage that increase. So are they playing with intensity? Are they playing with frequency? Are they playing with volume? How do you kind of best manage all of those different elements to allow for progression? Because it's very easy to say, oh, okay, I've upped my miles by 10% this week, so should I up my strength training by 10% this week? And I often hear a lot of, I don't want to strength train because then I'm tired to run, but then I can't run because I'm too tired for my strength training. So how do you kind of work with clients to ensure that there's a balance there and both are kind of supportive of the other, or
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, as the miles ramp up, we need to kind of adopt almost like a slight step back in terms of our strength training and our intensity within the gym. As I said, the priority is is the mileage at some point, but that's once we've built up that initial kind of strength, mobility, conditioning, all that sort of stuff. So as your miles increase, we'll be looking to just back off the load a little bit, be it load, be it volume, so a cumulative volume, be it reps, sets, probably perform 1 to 2. So if we were week 1 performing 3 sets of say 10 reps of an exercise, and the miles went up significantly, or by that 10% rule, as you mentioned, we probably drop it back to either 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps or 2 sets of 12. So we get the volume in, we still train the movement patterns, we still look to apply the right stimulus to the body, which is, there to like adapt, but not like break down. So we're still training the movement patterns, we're still in the gym doing our gym-based work. There could be a slight shift more towards the accessory components, so the stability work, single leg, the variations that we see to help kind of running as a whole. But yeah, as your miles go up, we need to back off one part.
Sure. I've just also jotted down a few questions that came in last minute, so I'm going to touch on one of them now. I think it kind of ties in quite nicely. A lot of runners that are running with us are, as I said, going for these longer distances, which means that the intensity isn't always super high because you're not sprinting unless you're kind of 500 meters from the finish line. You're not kind of really kind of working up to that like 85-90% mark. The goal is that you've got to keep going for a long time and often over several days. So we get a lot of questions around how much kind of speed work or interval work runners should be doing when they're training for something like this. Now, previously, when I was training, I had some speed work in because I wasn't very good at getting uncomfortable. Like, I was very happy prodding at like 40-50%, like singing, dancing, whatever, but asked me to get to that kind of sticky point, and that's where I was kind of like, nah, I'm all right, thanks. So
yeah, I mean, it's very important to get a good balance. Essentially, with the kind of training that the ultra guys are doing, we're looking at a completely different exercise intensity, or like the intensity domain we're not going to be doing high intensity sprint intervals with lots of recovery. We're not using that energy system. So we tend to favor, your zone 2 to zone 3 longer aerobic work, which could be your easy miles. And then at the same time, we don't want to just get comfortable in that zone. We don't want to spend, our 3 to 5 runs per week, whatever it may be, on whatever stage of your program you're on, continually like training that intensity. So what we can do is look to drip feed intensity throughout the training week, be it off-feet conditioning is a great way to do this, especially for runners. We could use a bike, for instance, to target that zone 4, zone 5 for those maybe 3 to 5 minute intervals. But we could also integrate it into runs, as you kind of know, as you've probably done with, varying intensity runs and looking at working up to, 3 minutes at zone 4 and then back down to maybe 8 minutes of whatever it may be at zone 2. So take intensity as I don't know, as a rule of thumb, we need it in there to create adaptation and to positively become aerobically fitter. But we also don't need to favor it when we're looking to do ultras and longer duration work.
Sure, so there's definitely a place for it. I guess it just needs to be programmed right. And I think
Yeah.
that is where a lot of people who are training for these type of ultras and maybe don't have a coach really struggle with, like you said, balancing all those different areas that need to come together to make a solid training plan. They tend to just focus on the fact they've got to run for X number of hours, and so that's what they put
Yeah,
in. When
I mean,
actually,
there's so many needs, isn't there? We must do
yeah,
this, we must do that, we must do this, we must do that. Like, break it down. The best plans and the best race prep, event prep is something that's incredibly simple. You know, it's progressive into the right stage, and then it's tapered back into the right stage. And as we said, as we kind of up the mileage, we drop the intensity or the volume in the gym, and you know, vice versa. So we can go from event to event to event with a kind of, you know, cyclical motion that doesn't just require being on or off.
for sure. Great. And you did touch on it. I should also apologise. I have my laptop on loud, and my Slack notification says hummus. So there's a random hummus out in the middle of this video. That was my fault. Sorry. Another question that came in, and you touched on it briefly, was cross training. Now, as you said, running is super demanding on the body. It's a lot of impact on the body. So what are your favourite ways to encourage runners training for these bigger distances to cross train?
Yeah, so I mean, if we can subject the body to lots of different stimulus, it's fantastic, but in the kind of correct way. You know, lots of, I think the misconception with strength training and running is that, you know, often runners tend to associate gym-based work with sweaty intervals or, you know, or burpees or battle ropes or hit, whatever it may be. But that's not going to benefit. That's not conducive to improving your running performance. If we want to train for running, it's an awesome opportunity to go into a functional fitness space and get in and around, making sure you're doing the key movement patterns, the deadlift, the squat, rotating, all that sort of thing, but doing it in the right way. So really ensure that your training program is benefiting your running. And you know, like jumping, such a huge untapped thing within kind of the running world. Like, not enough like long distance endurance athletes are jumping, they're not landing. So if we can get a set of box jumps on or landings or anything like that, we can really create a better body, as it were.
For sure. And what about things like sessions on the bike or swimming, or perhaps sessions on the cross trainer? Is that something that you kind of encourage?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of overall load, you know, it's great to break up the impact of running with kind of more off-feet based conditioning. So, as I said, we can either look to push intensity there on a watt bike, for instance, or swimming, if swimming is a skill for that person. You know, if you ask me to, you know, swim 40 minutes at zone 3 heart rate, I don't think I'll get very far. But you know what I mean? There's definitely an overlap which will benefit running performance, and that may be cross training, bike work, sled pushes, whatever it may be.
For sure. And just heading back onto some of the questions that we pulled in earlier, what are the most common mistakes, and I think you did touch on this a little bit earlier, but what are the most common mistakes you see people making when they start to incorporate strength training into their program?
I think the biggest mistakes I see or I hear or I talk to clients about is probably trying to do too much in a short amount of time. You know, we're trying to do a CrossFit workout, we've seen, because it's got a barbell, and we're trying to throw as much at our body as we can, but the basics and the foundations really remain the same. So train single limb strength and stability, and train it well, full body. Oh, can you? Oh dear. Oh, oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're
Hold on, let's pause. Give us 1 second and Harvey will be back. Gonna add Harvey again. There we go. Sorry. My brain is clearly not working. I've been talking too much about intervals and now that's what I've got brain. Hello!
We're in. Sorry about that. I'm not sure. I lost you. You lost me.
It doesn't matter. We have just had one. Actually, I'll go back to that one at the end. So we talked about the common mistakes made, trying to do too much. How would you encourage someone to get started with strength training to complement their running? So if they're a little bit unsure, obviously number one would be reach out to you and we'll put all your details in the comments on this live. But any kind of I don't know, first steps you'd encourage people to take?
So there are movements which are highly transferable to running. Single leg strength work, be it step ups, variations of a lunge, hinge patterns, so deadlift patterns, all these lend themselves really positively to running technique. So prioritizing those things, getting a good amount of trunk strength or core strength and stability in there as well, which comes from lifting weight. So doing step ups or single leg deadlifts, these all kind of require strength and stability through our joints and our body. So those sort of things that lend themselves well to running are fantastic. Whereas battle ropes, burpees, and other kind of high intensity interval training induced movements may not be so positive to kind of get started.
For sure, yeah. And that is, as you said, single leg work is so key. We're just hopping basically on one leg for up to 5 days. It's a lot for the body. And so we definitely need to do something to kind of support that movement for such a long period of time. Just a quick one, a few questions have come in. Best strength training exercises for knee pain. Now I understand we get these questions and they're really hard to answer, quite personal, but obviously guys, if you do have personal questions, we've had a few come in which we'll try and touch on quickly, but please do just reach out to Harvey individually to get a better insight into these questions. But as a rounded answer, best strength exercises for knee pain.
So best strength exercises for knee pain are the ones that load the joints. So we want to start really loading the knee into flexion and extension. Obviously, if you're in pain, get cleared from a physiotherapist or whatever, but the rehab process needs to kind of prioritize joint function, and that's function at the hip, the knee, and the ankle. So variations of lunges, a rear for elevated split squat is a great one to do because we can bias load more towards the hip. And just if there's no pain, then the best thing to do is to load the knee joint. So box step downs, so we get control on the way down, and other single leg work in and around that. I've got a lot of clients which have knee pain, and both online and kind of in person, and it remains the same. If we can look at creating a stable and functioning joint, and then strong tissues and muscles around it, then we are on a path to pain-free running.
For sure, and we have quite a few questions come in about specific injuries and how best to combat these. Guys, these are really difficult to answer because the first point we're all going to make is go and see a physio. But as I said, you can reach out to Harvey. Someone has come, and it's not necessarily pain. I think it might just be overuse, perhaps. But they're saying when they're running, they're getting really, really bad quad DOMs, but no DOMs anywhere else. Would there be any suggestions you can how to combat this?
Yeah, so that probably therein lies a tale of weakness or maybe dysfunction. So when there's weakness, the body takes the quickest shortcut to that route. So it may be that your running style or the structures or the tissues and the muscles you run with, we might be a little bit weak through that kind of anterior thigh or knee position, which is probably causing a little bit of pain. But pain is often caused by weakness. And if we can maybe start to train your quadriceps and your kind of those single limb patterns, and maybe think about how you're moving at the hip and the pelvis as well, that's gonna hugely kind of change what happens when you do kind of land and toe off. And don't just run downhill. Maybe that's a reason. Continuous running downhill might overload your quads a tad.
I mean, we've all done it. When we want PBs is the way to go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Final two questions. The first one is one that's just come in.
Yeah.
Running with a pack and they're getting a lot of lower back pain. Could this be from weakness? Again, I know this is a pain one, but I thought it was quite an interesting one to touch on because often the way you run with a pack, you change your kind of position or I guess style of running because there's essentially extra weight on there, right? So is there any exercises you perhaps consider?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think if you have a pack on your back, then it's obviously going to put more load through your kind of anterior and vice versa. I'm sure we change around, have around our arm and all sorts. But the best thing to kind of train for that is to train for strength. Again, we're trying to establish a really stable platform and strong platform to run all these miles on. So maybe some kettlebell holds or some isometric work. So some heavy dumbbell or kettlebell holds if you hold it in a really good position, and just think about bracing your core, bracing your lower body in a good position and kind of working that. And especially if it's on the back, then your running style might just be have to be changed. We'll probably go into like more of a curved position at our upper body, causing a complete different kind of mechanics at the hip when fatigue sets in, and volume and miles, everything changes. The body changes and adapts to what we're used to, especially if it's an ultra and it's relatively trail based. We can't control some of these factors, but what we can do is work hard to create a stable and strong platform. And the answer to most problems, I say most, is mobility capabilities, so movement capability and strength.
Cool. Thanks so much. I'm sure that'll be super helpful. I know that's one lot to suffer with. Okay, penultimate question.
Right.
If you could select one, and I realise I'm putting you on the spot here because I know there's a lot, but if you could select one single exercise that every runner should do, what would it be?
I'll go back to the previous point and say that any movement that's highly transferable to running. I think my favorite, which I've been doing with my clients or both myself, is 20 seconds on single leg hops and 20 seconds rest. 4 or 5, 3, maybe 2 rounds, 3 rounds on each leg. Have a good crack at that and just make sure you're landing with control and effectively through the foot. We're trying to stay on the ball of the foot to get nice and kind of reactive and springy through the calf and the Achilles. And that should set you up for maybe some better tolerance when running.
Cool, amazing. Well, Harvey, thank you so much.
Did you hear most of that?
I did hear most of that. I got all of it. Thank you for joining us and taking some time.
Perfect.
Been fantastic. Really looking forward to your live on Sunday, and we'll pop all the details of where to find in this live. But have a glorious rest of the day. Enjoy Greece. It looks, as I said, absolutely fantastic. And we'll see you on Sunday.
Super. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you very much, guys, for listening. And I shall see you on Sunday.
See you Sunday. Bye.
Bye, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.